Hello everyone, today I'll be showing you on how to get the Hardly Anything Sevres achievement. So this achievement needs you to play as Turkey, then restore the Ottoman Empire, which is to take this focus here, then control 4 states, which is Latium, Ile de France, London area, Greater London area, and Kanto over here, because these 4 contain the capitals of the nations that signed the Treaty of Sevres. I've seen some call this the hardest achievement in Hearts of Iron 4, and I don't agree with that. It's quite hard, but isn't the hardest achievement, I would say. Yeah. And there aren't many good guides on getting this achievement either. I believe there's 2 out there, one by Spaniard and another one by Bitter Steel. But Bitter Steel's guide is just Spaniard's guide, but better since he uses tanks, whereas Spaniard's guide is not very good either. It's called the advanced guide, but have you used 14 4s and 7 2s, which are not very good templates, so that tells you how the guide is. And it also has you build up naval dockyards first, and then you use your submarines to invade Japan, which isn't entirely foolproof plan. It requires quite a bit of luck, how China does in the war. And it also leaves you quite weak as Turkey, since you only have the industrial base of base Turkey and the manpower pool of base Turkey, which isn't a lot to go by. And it's also further compounded. The achievement is also made a bit harder because the Ottoman Empire path focus tree branch isn't very strong in terms of civilian factories or focuses. You have this one here that gives you a bit of factories, but they all require around 180 days, so it's kind of useless. Then this one here gives you some factories, but it's quite little. And then all the other good focuses with factories, etc., all the way down here. Yeah, which is well after you reform the Ottoman Empire and when you're much weaker. The Ottoman Empire is also a bit more weaker because you can basically conquer the Balkan area, which you can core, and it's the part of your empire, part of the Ottoman Empire. They can form in game with the most factories, but you only have 2 decisions to core it. One, to core Romania. You need to control all of Romania, but these 2 states, and can core it. Another one lets you core all of the Balkans, all of Albania, Greece, Bulgaria, and Yugoslavia, except these 2, except for Croatia and Slovenia. But for those, to get this entire region cored, you need to control the entire region. So you need to control Albania, which Italy gobble up, Zara, which Italy has, and as a result, you can't core this entire region until quite late on, even using my guide, since my guide has you taken them on in 1941. So it leaves you quite weak. The Ottoman Empire focus tree as well doesn't give you a lot of factories. So you can see here a reconfigured Turkish foreign policy, which is the best branch in the Turkish focus tree. Gives you quite a lot of focus trees, a lot of factories. Sorry. This one here gives you a medium tank. This one here gives you 3 civs and some oil. This one here gives you free infrastructure and military factories. And then you have the communist path, which is really overpowered. This one here gives you a lot of factories. This one here as well. Then this one, a lot more infrastructure. Then this one here just lets you remove your debt completely. Then you also have a good focus trees here. But nonetheless, my guide is going to help you get an achievement quite easily. And this guide is coming out a bit late. It's going to be 3 or 2 weeks before No Step Back releases, because it depends on how fast I edit it. And yeah, I didn't realize No Step Back was releasing so soon. I thought it would come in December, so I thought I had enough time to release this guide. But nonetheless, the core part of strategy will still remain even when No Step Back releases. You're still going to be doing the focuses in the same order, invading countries in the same order, carrying the same shenanigans. The only difference will be the templates you're using because of the combat drift change. The supply change also I don't think is going to affect that much, since you're not going to be relying heavily on supply. Supply is already quite poor in the Middle East and Africa where you invaded, and the Balkan region also doesn't have a lot of good supply. So you can see that I'm not an Iron Man because this is just the prelude, the introduction, and this is real-time commentary. like I'm recording as I commentate. Everything else you see from this point on is going to be post-commentary, because I don't have a good mic and I record at odd times, so to stitch together everything and then add in post-commentary. So without ado, let's get into the guide. So I'm starting a game as Turkey, and you can see it's only attempt 5 because it's not really that hard to get an achievement once you've got the general strategy. So to start, you want to take all your army and convert it to the smaller reserve infantry template, and then consolidate them and put them on a fallback line around the states of Bursa, Izmir and Antalya, because these are states that will rise up in the civil war. For focuses, you want to do the Montreal Convention, then we're going straight down Ottoman path. Next, you want to form an intelligence agency, and for occupation, you want to put Kurdistan onto secret police. You can put them onto military governor or martial law if you want, but they will also take up more guns, and we don't have a lot of guns, hence why you consolidate the troops. So you want to research motorized, light tank 2 and basic machine tools. Then build military factories in your western states with high infrastructure. These states are also the ones with the Kemalist modifiers for construction. Keep the factory on infantry equipment and fighters, put one on support and light tank, and put your only dockyard on your early submarines, because you want to spam a lot of them out to get more supremacy. For decisions, right, you can just disable all of them apart from the improved worker conditions, because if you don't do this, you get a lot of notifications, constant spam. The reason why we build military factories now is so we have increased production of tanks, etc. for the upcoming wars. Building civilian factories will give you a stronger economy, yes, but we get enough civilian factories from our conquest, so there's no need for us to build it now. Building military factories will be better. Also, building dockyards is kind of useless since it's just making yourself weaker since you have less military factories. Take your navy, merge it together and put it in Izmir. Just assign any commander. Assign a commander that isn't Kemalist, since the Kemalists won't stick with you. I can see I'm consolidating the army now. It says 13 divisions, by my experience you get around 15 to 18. Depends on how the Kurds react, I guess, how many guns they consume. So for intelligence agency, you want to go for the cryptology department. Your form department agency upgrade is done. You want to do the anti-partisan one and do both of them. Then for spy, you want to pick either a seducer or commando. So when you form an internet network in other nations, they don't get caught very easily. So let's take a spy and put them on the rule out resistance mission in Kurdistan. Put them in the state that targets all of the states. Then for Cypher, work on the Yugoslavian Cypher. Start exercising your army once it's fully consolidated to get experience and also train them. Once your convention focus is done, you get an event chain. Just stick to the bottom option every time. On historical, play the same. You get a bunch of war support, stability and political power for this. When the focus is done, also pick fully integrated banks since you want to go down the Ottoman path. With the political power you've gained, you want to hire the silent workers as your first upgrade to get more PP gain, so you have more political power for the other stuff to do later. Then when you get 100 political power, also pick improved worker conditions to increase stability, since when Ataturk dies, we're gonna lose stability. Now that we have 15 command power, it's time to do the Kurd decision. So you want to look for states that have a higher chance of success than failure. The on map button will show this, and the states with a higher chance of success are states with less resistance. And you also want to go for the states with lesser resistance, since if you fail, the resistance increase will be manageable compared to in a state with higher resistance. For focuses, right, the next focus we're doing is ratify 6 arrows, and once we get 150 political power, we will purchase the military tier to get more army experience and also speed up our doctrine research. For your next research, pick concentrated industry, and you're going to go concentrated industry since at the beginning of the game, we aren't going to get a lot of factories to put onto our production, and concentrated gives more output, and we need more production now to make our earlier conquest easier. For agency upgrades, next we're going to do 2 radio upgrades and then the suicide pills. You can see I got a positive result from the decision, which is what you want. It gives you political power, compliance, reduce resistance, and also decreases the modifier 1 level down. You want all 4 Kurdish states to be at separatist fatigue, since it doesn't give extra resistance growth or anything, and you can just go back to normal garrison law. The states will become normal. Sometimes the decision can fail. If it happens to you now, I wouldn't suggest restarting since it's still salvageable. But if it happens to you a bunch of times, say 3 to 4 times, and you lose a lot of stability and resistance increases a lot, I recommend you just restart. It's only around I think 15 to 20 minutes in the game now, so you won't waste a lot of time if you restart. Now the motorized and light tank 2 research is done. You want to queue up 1 factory for motorized. Don't put any factories on it now. When you build a factory, you automatically assign to it. And swap out the light tank 1 for the light tank 2 production. And you also have 150 political power now from the Kurdish division. If you don't have, eventually just wait a bit. And pick a mobile tank designer, since it gives you more armor, speed and reliability, which is the traits that we want in our armor. And also because we pick it now, it will make our research for the next armor thing more faster. And I also did the Kurdish decision again since I have 15 command power now, and it's a good outcome, which is what we wanted. For your next research, you want to research light SPG2 since we're going to be using that, and electromechanical engineering, the electronics for more research speed. The focus was also done, the 6 arrows. The next focus is going to be the Treaty of Sadabad to give war support and political power that we use to go to partial mobilization. The focus that was completed also gives us access to 6 divisions. Most of them are completely useless, aren't worth the initial political power cost, apart from one, which is republicanism, since it gives us stability, which again as Turkey we need, and also non-aligned support, which we want to increase because when we flip to Ottoman Empire, our ideology is going to be non-aligned, and more non-aligned is more stability. So just put that a notification 1 for that, and whenever it comes out, spam it. You can get, I believe, 3 to 4 attempts of it, depending on how fast you are in reacting to it. Trade for the relevant resources. Get your steel from the Soviet Union since you have a common border with them, land border that isn't going to be disrupted, and you aren't going to be going to war with them. And also when your light SPG research is done, queue a separate production line for that, put it above of tanks, trucks since you want it to be produced first, and your next research do construction to focus on economy. All of the upgrades for the intelligence agency is done. We aren't going to be doing anything else. We have the ability to get an extra spy and get your spy and then put it in Yugoslavia, or if you still have problems with the Kurds, their resistance, put your spy on rooting out resistance there. The Sabdat Park focus gives you 3 events, one from Iran, Iraq and Afghanistan, and each of them on historical will accept the pact, so you get political power, a non-aggression pact, and some war support from the focus, so you switch to partial mobilization. Next focus to do is the Sane Sila, which will give a bunch of divisions, then privatize the agency and lift the ban on other political parties. We want to do this because lift the ban on other political parties will start a event chain that we need time to play out. Then after lift the ban on other political parties, we're going to expand the work with the Debt Council. And you can see that I got a negative result from the Kurdish decision, which honestly doesn't matter. Just keep doing the decision when you have 15 command power until all the states are at separatist fatigue. Now the research for electromechanical engineering is done. You want to go mechanical computing for the extra research speed. And now the focus is done. The Sane Sila, we got a bunch of decisions for that. If you go to your decisions, go all the way down, you see them. Each of these take a bunch of time, and they give you 1 factory in return, so they aren't really very helpful, but over time they will add up, and you will also have enough political power to afford for this with the Kurdish decision. You want to pick the Nuri Kulgil factory right away, because that gives you a military factory, not a civilian one, and a civilian one will be more useful, but it allows you to unlock the war industrialist person who gives you more faster military factory construction speed, which is what you want. You want to have a lot of military factories, and if you rush and you do this right away, you can get him while you still have Ataturk in government for cheaper. Continue researching your industry. You want it to be up on date. Once you have 150 political power, your next purchase is going to be the ship designer Golkuk NSY, because that lets you construct your ships for less production costs, allowing you to spam more of them. Now that we have completed the lift the ban on other political parties focus, we get an event chain about democracy. You want to side with the democracy faction even if they resist stability, so the bottom option. And also take into account the debt council, the effects it has now, and see how it changes once this focus is done. Now, resistance in Kurdistan will decrease a lot since you have been on secret police or higher garrison law for a long time, and you might be tempted to reduce the garrison law, but don't do that. Because of the Kurdish, the state on a state modifier, you get a lot of resistance growth unless you constantly battle it with a high garrison law. Only when everything is separatist fatigue will there be no increased resistance, and there won't be the division that causes the state management to become even worse. Next research is construction 2 to keep up on date on industry. You can see I picked promises of peace there, and the reason was because I just wanted to increase stability and a bunch of political power, so why not? This will cause you to lose war support and you will drop below the amount required for partial mobilization, but you should have enough political power to hit nationalism and get back up past the amount required for partial mobilization. Next focus is utilize foreign capital for an extra research slot. Now they have done the focus corporate with debt council, the TPDA industrial concern is now upgraded. It consumes 0.05 political power daily, which is a decrease from 0.15. It doesn't require any consumer good factories, gives a less resource to the market, and also increases your industrial research speed to 7% from 5. And this, the minor debuffs it gives is acceptable. Political power gain, we already have a silent workforce to counter, and it does cause more of your resources to go to the market because of free trade as well. But the thing is, as Turkey, you have no resources of value. All you have is chromium, so it doesn't really matter how much of it goes to the market. We do have two decisions to get rid of it. One decision takes it from an industrial concern into a national spirit, cost of 120 pp, called absorb the TPDA, but we have no other useful industrial concerns, so there's no need to do so. We can also use another 120 political power to get rid of the TPDA fully, but this will cause us to take 15% consumer good factories for 180 days, which is a lot of days and cripples your industry, which as Turkey don't have a lot of, so it's not worth it to get rid of it and raise the political power. We're just going to keep the TPDA as it is and continue onwards. Now I can see that Ataturk has fallen ill, and now we need to do a bunch of things in rapid succession. So first, you want to wait until the Nuri Kurgil factory decision is done. Then while you still have Ataturk as leader, hire the war industrialist for 105 pp. And then after that's done, you want to retire Ataturk and then do the assess our future decision to get the good national spirit. If you don't do that and you just do election focus first, Ataturk will be removed from office and the assess the future focus will give you a bad effect instead. You give it -5 stability instead of 15 stability. But in this run, I didn't do this because I forgot to do so. So in your run, do the optimal strategy. But if you mess it up, it doesn't really matter since you can still soldier on without the extra stability. If Ataturk also dies early, then you can't do the strategy, so it doesn't matter really if you do it or not. It's just better if you do. For research, do improved machine tools. do a doctrine. We're going to be picking mobile warfare since we're going to be going all in on tanks, light tanks. So we're going to be going right. Yes, right. The Blitzkrieg part. The reason we choose this path is since it gives more breakthrough and organization to your tanks, allowing your tanks to fight far further and longer in enemy territory, to push in deep and encircle troops, which is the game strategy that we're going to be using. Our next research is going to be 1936 fighters. The fighters aren't necessary for this strategy. It can do everything with tanks. I just chose fighters since it helps us a bit, like it makes it a bit more convenient. But if you want, you can go all in on tanks. Now we have a bunch of divisions, the industrial projects available, and I suggest you pick the Karabukh Iron Steel Factory, since that gives you 4 steel in Izmit, and also an option later on once you've done this to increase more steel in Izmit. And as Turkey, you don't have a lot of steel, so this is a good idea. You'll be trading your civilian factories for steel, so 4 steel is like half a civilian factory. Choose the Democrat Party to win the election. They are the conservative democracy and you need them to bring back the Ottoman Empire. If you choose the CHP, you'll be unable to go down the Ottoman Empire path, so pick the Democrat part. Now, national focus wise, we're going to be doing the Hatay issue and peace in the world first before we do the Achieving Atatürk's Dream. It's been renamed to the Militant Adami because our party changed. The reason is because the Militant Adami focus turns your Kemalist hostile, so you won't get the increased construction speed, which is what we want to retain, since we want to build military factories faster for longer. Eventually they'll become hostile, but we want to make use of the Kemalists for as long as we can. And since we aren't Kemalists, we don't have the ability to choose the Republicanism focus division, which is why it's important to spam it. We will get the division later on, but it's going to be, I believe, 5 to 6 years later, so it's not going to be useful to rely on that. Just spam it while you can. Your next research is going to be radio. Also set up a military factory so that once you have 1 on motorized and light SPG, there's every 4 factories to light tanks and 1 to light SPG to maintain the ratio of 4 to 1. Now that we have around 35 army experience, we're going to be making our main tank template. There's a template that's going to help us achieve victory, and it's a 5-2-2. It consists of 5 light tanks, 2 motorized, 2 SPG. And for support companies, eventually we're going to switch the recon to light tank recon since it gives better attack. Maintenance company to steal more equipment and maintain the tanks. Engineers, since your engineers give increase of stats overall. Now you might be thinking, oh, this template has very little organization, it's very garbage. But again, organization only, there's no set limit to how much organization you need in template. It's a factor, it's a stat that depends on how the other stats around it play. So the idea that you need 30 organization in a tank is just like it's just an arbitrary guideline or baseline, and you don't really need 30 organization in a tank. This template has enough organization and power to fight this tank to basically break the enemy division, go behind their lines and encircle the enemy. This division is also very cheap, and this template, the tank template and strategy, aren't mine. In fact, they belong to a person called, they don't belong. They were first invented by a person called Vindicator117 on Reddit. So if you have any more questions, I guess you can ask him. Now Atatürk has died. Rest in peace. We are going to erode your legacy by bringing back Ottoman Empire, improve relations with Portugal, and get docking rights. For the Hatay issue, on historical, I believe France is guaranteed to give you a Hatay back. So there's no need to worry about it. We're also going to buy the light aircraft designer for more agility in our aircraft. And again, if you don't want to use airplanes at all, you can just avoid this purchase as well and just ignore everything else. I'm only using airplanes because I kinda can, and they simplify, I guess, some battles, but they aren't necessary at all. Whenever a new a new concentrated industry has finished, check your construction and make sure you assign factories to construct in Istanbul first, since there's the highest infrastructure and the fastest construction speed. When Yugoslavian cipher is done decipher the Romanian one. and I think you know where this is going. If the Kurds have settled down, put a spy in Romania. Your next research is going to be concentrated 3. We're going to rush it ahead of time, but it doesn't matter. You also technically can steal industrial blueprints from countries such as Japan to get a boost on industry using this method as well, this pathway as well. It doesn't stop you from doing so, but I personally don't prefer it, since like I found that sometimes when you don't do it right, you get a boost for excavation, etc., and so it's a wasted like mission. And also because there's no need to do that industrial blueprint stealing, but if you want to, you can go ahead. If you're thinking of doing the investment opportunity with the major nations, don't pick it. It's not properly coded, I believe, and so it takes either a lot of time for the other nation to get in and reply, or they just don't get the notification at all. Do the militant Adami focus now. The Camelists are going to be hostile to this after this focus, so make sure you finish the factories in the Kemalist states, and any more factories you build should be in neutral states, as in they aren't traditionalist or Kemalist. Ankara and the state below don't flip to either Kemalist or traditionalist, and the traditionalists or Kemalists won't infiltrate the states, so you can build your factories there until you purge the Kemalists during the civil war. You can see I've created a new cavalry template 1, and this is just a template containing one cavalry unit. It's going to be our line follower. So what this does is, when we use our tanks to break the enemy line, we're going to send our tanks in behind to wreak havoc, and send this cavalry inside as well to spread out, seize victory points, distract the enemy, and also help encircle the enemy. I'm queuing 9 here, since for the civil war, before it starts we want a total of 24 divisions, 9 around the state of Trebizond and the rest in the west. Change production of your fighter to the improved fighter which is fighter 1, and your next research is going to be your construction 2, because we want a better industry. Stop exercising your army now. We have more than enough XP. You only needed around 40 XP to make the 5-2 template. So now you want to keep 15 divisions on the fallback line you've made in the west, and assign the remaining out of your 24 army around the state of Trebizond. So there will be 9 divisions around Trebizond. Once mobile warfare is done, just continue on the doctrine focus tree. You're going to be using this one research slot and just continuously researching doctrine, so I'm not going to mention it when it comes up again. So I'm not going to be having any more political power purchases from now on, since we're saving the political power for later on. Convert all of your troops to cavalry template 1. This is because in the civil war, the other side, the Camelists, will get some of your troops, and if they're the actual like big infantry battalion, they will fight, and then you will wave guns and damage the buildings. But with this small template, they aren't as willing to fight, and even if they fight, you won't damage a lot of guns. And also the cavalry template is faster, so it allows us to seize the victory points in the civil war. Next research, computing machine. Now we have a decision between two focuses: expand our armaments, that gives us military factories and increase to military factory construction speed, on top of the boost we get from partial mobilization and the war industrialists, or permit regional election that will make the traditionalists happy and also give us divisions to call the Kurdish land. Now, to call the Kurdish land, you need a lot of compliance, and you also need a lot of political power, so that's a no. And the traditionalists being happy is going to be useful, yes, but when we get a civil war in around 2 focuses time, the Kemalists will all be purged from the high infrastructure states, which is where you want to build anyway. So it's better to choose expand our armaments. Now expand our armaments down, we're going to do privatize our infrastructure, purge the officers, pivot to the past, and then go straight down the Ottoman path. When you have the command power and political power, improve relations with China to 20 and send them an attaché. It will give you army experience they can use to upgrade your tanks. If Menkuko, Japan or Manchukuo ask you to take your attaché away, just say no to them. So for your next factory, right, just pick any that isn't in the state that rises up. So any that isn't in Bursa, Izmir, Antalya. Now the Kemalists have risen up and there's a civil war. So in this civil war, the states of Edirne, Istanbul, Izmir, Bursa, Antalya and Trabzon will rise up against you. And the enemy also has troops, but have less troops than you. You retain 15 out of 24, they get 9 I believe. So just use your cavalry and maneuver around your enemy and seize their victory points. You don't need to take Istanbul to win, because Istanbul will likely be guarded. You only need to take, I believe, Izmir, the key victory points in Trabzon, and some more in Bursa and Antalya to win. So just take all of them and you'll be able to win the war very quick. We can't pick any, we can't go on Ottoman path focus for now since we're in a war. So pick learning from the Great War to get better army. When the civil war is done, we'll continue down the Ottoman path. But right now, since we are in the civil war, there's stuff we need to do. So switch your economy to total mobilization and your conscription to extensive conscription. For generals, just assign the one field marshal you have and then this infantry general. It's quite good, but I believe it's going to leave us when Ottoman come back. You have the ability to go for improved worker conditions and war bonds, so do so. The improved worker conditions will take 5% consumer good factories, but the war bonds will take it away. So it's a net win since we get stability. Do the anti-fascist grade as well. It decreases stability by 10, but overall it gives 12 stability. So you have an increase of 2. Not to mention that there also be increased stability from the party popularity. If you face resistance in your path, like troops are on key victory points, don't fight them since your troops aren't very good. Instead, maneuver around the victory point and continue forward. The Kemalists don't have enough forces to fill the front line, so instead they will start to move their encircled troops out of the victory points and you can just walk in and take them. And now we have an event where the Ottoman officers offer to restore the empire. Click our Old Glory Awaits Reclamation since you want to go Ottoman Empire path. This is the decision you need to become Ottoman Empire. And you can see that we removed the good general we had, and now we only have we have a bunch of mediocre generals, only one good general, which kind of sucks. Also do anti-democratic raids. You want to be constantly doing anti-democratic and anti-fascist raids until your democracy and fascism support is near zero for the stability. I've decided to purchase an army offense expert, which isn't the right choice here. I mean, it doesn't really matter since you have enough political power now anyway, but I suggest against getting any advisors now, since when you restore Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Sultanate, you get a discount to all the officials. Now Turkey has capitulated, so just fix your production queue and everything, and you can start building again in the high infrastructure western provinces, so Istanbul, Bursa, Izmir, Antalya, since they no longer have any Kemalist. We haven't done the focus purging the Kemalist, but the Kemalist modifier is no longer in this state for some reason, so it's free to build there. I'm also going to take promises of peace for stability, and since I can do nationalism later on to counteract the effects of it. Also, for research, you're going to pick engineer companies next for the tanks, and you can notice that we're below 80% war support, so we get a decision to demobilize. but it doesn't really matter because our next focuses are going to give a lot of war support. So we pushed over the 80% barrier. In fact, I don't think you need to do nationalism at all. You can, even with promises of peace, you'll be pushed over 80% war support. And your army, you have 15 left, so just assign 2 to 4 to guard the Greek islands area there, and assign 10 to naval invade Greece. You want 2 naval invading Crete, and the rest to just naval invade the southern part of Greece. As you can see, we don't have any good generals, so just assign your good generals you have. Most of them are just defensive generals, and you only have 1 good offensive general. It's kind of a shame we don't have any good offensive generals, because I believe the Ottoman Empire did have some good offensive generals. In fact, I think one of them was a prince of the Ottoman Empire, Osman Faoud, but for some reason we have no mention of him in game, even though he's alive at the moment and only I think 40 years old. Having Osman Faoud as a field marshal or general would be kinda cool, and he also make an interesting potential head of state or government, since he was in line to the Ottoman throne, I think, unlike the heads of governments you can get, which kinda makes no sense.
Hazırım komutanım. Emirleriniz için hazırım. Emriniz. Hazırım.
With the remaining troops set a fallback line in Edirne and Istanbul across these 3 states. We're going to lure the Greek army in, and since these states are plain tiles, it's going to be easy for us to break the Greeks and encircle them with our tanks. You can see I'm queuing up 5 tanks for deployment, but you can get 6 tanks fully equipped before you go to war with Greece. Focuses we're going to be doing is pivot to the past, purge the Kemalist, restore the Divan, then rebuilding our nation. Then we're going to go straight down the Ottoman tree. So pivot to the past focus gives you 15 war support and 15 stability, so you don't need to step down your economy law. Train more divisions so you have an army of 24, and then put all the excess divisions on the fallback line in Edirne. The prepared rearmament scheme is done, so you don't get the boost to military factories, which is kinda sad, but it gave us enough military factories for our needs. Build your military factories in your high infrastructure areas. Avoid any areas with any Kemalist modifiers for now, until you do the purge Kemalist focus, and avoid areas with a traditionalist modifier. So any area that has no modifier is free to build. When the Romanian cipher is done, decrypt the cipher of the UK, and then after that decrypt the cipher of France, then work on the Axis. Concentrator industry is done, so research advanced machine tools to keep up to date on production. When construction is done researching, research fuel storage, so we can go down fuel refining. Engineers is done, research maintenance 1 and then maintenance 2. Whenever one of this factory division comes up, just click on them to get a factory in some time. And whenever you can do anti-democratic raids, anti-fascist raids, or improve worker conditions, just click on those as well. Now we have done purge the Kemalist, and what this focus does is it removes the Kemalist modifier from any state that has a modifier but did not have when we started the game. So any state outside of Edirne, Istanbul, Bursa, Izmir, or Trabzon that has a Kemalist modifier will have you removed, and you can build in the states now. Now we do restore the Divan first. The reason we do this first is because it gives us a stability which is useful, and also because the other focus only gives factory repair speed. That isn't very helpful because we don't have a lot of damaged factories since we didn't fight a lot in the Civil War, which isn't helpful because we didn't damage a lot of factories due to how we fought the Civil War. So I explained how the expand the Divan focus works. So initially when we fully integrated the bank, the focus, we got a prime minister who's our political advisor. Right now it's Celal Bayar and he gives some buff. This focus removes that guy as our prime minister because for some reason, although we overthrew the Kemalist, he's still our prime minister, and we will get a new guy as our prime minister. If you already have the political advisor slot filled, you fire the Celal Bayar and there's someone else inside, you won't get this guy, the new guy, as your prime minister. So that's how the thing works. It needs an empty slot or a prime minister and a political advisor to give. After fuel storage is done, research fuel refining. This is because our tanks need oil, fuel to run, and we convert the oil that we import into fuel. Convert all of your troops, your cavalry, to the reserve infantry template. Edit it so it isn't a reserve template anymore, with the same equipment priority as everything else, and also make it a 10th division instead, so take out one of the infantry battalions inside. Merge up your navy after the Civil War and put it in Izmir. Now our tanks are deployed, so just group them up together and put them under one general. We're going to be giving them Refet Pasha, who is our best general. He has a brilliant strategist, but I don't advise making him your field marshal since he's the best attack general and we don't have the time to grind generals because we can't afford to. And we're also going to be doing the general garrison trick. So you take your general, garrison a country that you can't access the land of, so Romania, because we don't have military access to them. Then take your field marshal and do a field marshal front line on Greece. So what this does is, if your divisions are near to the front line, despite them not, the general not having a front line, because the field marshal is the front line, your divisions will get planning. You can see here I finally gotten all the Kurdish states to separatist fatigue. So I'm gonna change occupation law to civilian oversight. The resistance will rise because we change the civilian oversight, but will be manageable because of the state management, and also we will get more compliance, so less resistance overall. The next research is fighter tools. If you aren't going for planes, just don't research fighter tools, research your engineer tools or any other industrial tech. Now we have restored the Sultan and we get a lot of buff. So we get 15 stability, 15 war support, again very useful, but we also get a Sultan back, Abdul Majid, who has 15 stability and also makes our advisors all cost less. So now is the time to hire your war staff because he makes it cheaper for us to do so. So we're gonna hire the division recovery guy and the attrition expert. There are no other useful military staff, so we aren't going to be hiring anything else. The air superiority person if you want, but there isn't really a need to do so. Now we're doing the focus reclaim the Macedonia Sanjak, and after this focus we will have a war goal against Greece, so we're going to go to war with them immediately. Now we have an important decision to make. So once we have restored Sultanate, we get the decision alter the royal laws of succession. And you want to click this decision for 120 political power. This is because your Sultan Abdul Majid will die in 1942 or 43 with his son because of an earthquake. And if you alter the royal laws of succession, the Sultanate will pass on to his daughter, who is his only other child. And she is very strong, like has a list of strong buffs. And also to core the land, you need either, like the Ottoman Empire land, you need either Abdul Majid or his daughter in charge. So just alter royal law of succession, and then when he dies you get an event where you can choose between her, his daughter or some regent. Choose the daughter since she's far stronger. This event itself makes no sense because I believe Ottoman Empire has oldest male preference succession. So basically in the entire family, the oldest male is the head of a house and he is the next in line for the throne. So after Abdul Majid, it will be I think Ahmed IV, then Osman Faud. But for some reason all of them are gone and you only have his daughter who can take over. If you don't alter the royal laws of succession, you get another regent instead, and he doesn't give as good buffs as Abdul Majid or his daughter, which kind of makes no sense. I mean, there are other people for the job but they disappear for some reason, so just alter the laws. Put one factory on transport planes. When you've added all the support companies to your tank template, any leftover army experience you have, you can use it to boost your doctrine. Now the focus is near to completion, so just take out your air force and put it in your airbase. You're going to put them over the Aegean Sea first to help your naval invasion, then you're going to put them over Greece to help you invade Greece. You're also going to put your navy on strike force and immediately launch your naval invasion. Then once your naval invasion has launched, you want to get take your navy off strike force. This is because the Greek navy will intercept your divisions and will also fight your navy, and you don't want to lose any ships to the Greek navy. You want to retain as many of them. The strategy is still the same. We're gonna invade, seize the victory points in the south of Greece, the Peloponnese, who's to agree, no, and take Crete as well. And then with our tanks in the north, we're gonna encircle and destroy the Greek army until we can seize Thessaloniki, and then we can defeat Greece. Then we will annex Greece fully. Our next focus is going to be press the Austro-Hungarian claim, which finishes in 70 days. So the war should also be finished in 70 days, which isn't very hard to do. Also improved relations with Romania. Ask for docking rights, non-aggression pact, military access, etc. if you can. And just annex Greece once it's over. When the research slot opens up, research paratroopers. And you can see we ended the war quite early, so we have roughly 30 days until the focus finishes and we get a war goal against Yugoslavia. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your tanks, your 8 tanks, and you're going to plan a naval invasion of Serbia from Zara all the way to the Albanian border. And you're also going to supplement your 8 tanks with 2 infantry that you're going to use to help naval invade. And we've also spammed a lot of cavalry divisions that we're going to also use in the war. They're going to be used to fill in the lines, so you can either send them in after the tanks as a separate naval invasion, or like move them to a port to fill in the lines, or you can just put them near the Bulgarian border there and have them move in reserve waiting to move in. The strategy we're going to do is we're going to only put troops near Thessaloniki, there are 2 tiles there, and let Yugoslavia pour fully into Greece. Then while the Yugoslavian army is in Greece, we naval invade them with our tanks, and our tanks are very fast. They move at 12 km per hour. We're just going to rush their victory points and then capitulate them. This allows us to defeat them very quickly without wasting guns, and also without wasting any other equipment as well. So before the war, I spammed out some cavalry divisions, the 1 template, the 1 battalion cavalry divisions. So when the war starts with Yugoslavia, you want to put your navy out in the Adriatic and the Mediterranean and just launch your tank naval invasion. You can see I've also used the cavalry and assigned them some naval invasion. So what I'm going to do is after the tank naval invasion has launched, I'm going to delete those orders and then assign the cavalry to their naval invasion, and that will allow them to launch, so I can launch more than 10 without having the capacity to launch more than 10 invasions. Also, you want to move your conscription law to service by requirement, and this isn't actually necessary. If you want, you can stay at extensive conscription. You can just use your cavalry, the 1 division cavalry, as your line holder. But if you find it a bit hard or you aren't very used to it, you can just move up a conscription law that will allow you to use your 20 wave infantry. It's not really necessary in this run either, but I just did it because I thought I wouldn't have enough manpower, but I did. You want to only launch your naval invasions once Yugoslavia has pushed in deep to Greece, so the army isn't there to stop you.
Harekete hazırım. Hazırım. Emirlerinizi bekliyorum. Harekete hazırım. Emredersiniz efendim. Baş üstüne efendim. Gitmeye hazır. Emriniz yok mu? Harekete hazırım.
Our next focus is going to be aligned Bulgaria, and this focus will either make Bulgaria a puppet or give us a war goal on them. And the chance of this happening is 50-50, and it's seed based. So at the start of every game you go into, it's already predetermined, so you can't change it. And it doesn't really matter which of the 2 options you get. If you get to the war goal, you can annex Bulgaria, just get it done with. You don't have to integrate them later on. But if you get them as a puppet, technically they can get more factories that way from their focus tree. But it also takes more effort to integrate them. So it's I guess comparable. Plus Bulgaria at this point of time doesn't have enough troops to do anything. So you can quite easily take them on if they refuse your offer to become your puppet. the war of Yugoslavia is done, you just want to annex all of Yugoslavia. And now we're gonna do you're gonna go after Romania. So Romania, you have a war goal against them, but they're guaranteed by France. So you might be thinking, oh, we can't go after Romania, we go to war with the allies. But that isn't the case. We are strong enough at this point to go after Romania even if they were to join the allies. You can at this point of time just declare on Romania. With your 8 tanks, you're more than capable of defeating them. Then just go to war with the allies. In my channel, right, I believe my Ottoman Empire attempt 1, I did the same thing and it works fine. You can go ahead and declare Romania right now. But it brings you into war with the allies, which might be a bit of a headache, especially if the naval invade some of your provinces and then get stuck there. So instead, what we're going to do is we're gonna this is what we improve the relations for. Romania has now feels threatened by us since we annexed all of Yugoslavia, and they also have a positive modifier to us because we're the same ideology and guarantee us and the Balkan Pact. So they're going to be receptive to us forming a faction with you. So we simply form a faction with them, and once we can kick them out, we're going to kick them out of the faction. And when we kick them out of the faction, we still retain the war goal on them. So we can declare war on them and annex Romania. And the main reason this is very useful is because, again, the coring decisions, right, if you recall at the beginning, you have one to core, basically, one to core Crete, the islands, Cyprus and the Peloponnese, and another decision to core everything in all of Bulgaria, Greece, Albania and Yugoslavia except Croatia, Vojvodina and Croatia. But you also have a third division, which is Romania. You can call all of Romania except Bessarabia and Bukovina. So Romania also at this point has a lot of factories. It has roughly, I think, the same amount of factories as you do, as Turkey. So by annexing Romania and then coring them, we're going to be doubling our factory count, which is going to make us very strong, far stronger than any other guides or paths I've seen, and it's going to give us the ability to basically get the achievement much quicker. You also increase our manpower pool base since you're going to be adding 20 million to Turkey's existing, I think, 14 million. So you don't really need to go to service by requirement that I did previously. So World War II has started and we don't really care about it. We aren't going to be jumping into it directly right now. But what you can see is that the world tension has spiked to above 50 because of World War II starting. So now we can justify a war goal on Hungary. And we're going to do this right away. We do this because the main reason is because Hungary has a lot of guns. Because of army restrictions, Hungary can't get a lot of troops into the field. So their factories are stuck making guns and they have a huge stockpile of it. And since they've already flipped fascist, it doesn't matter, they will generate a lot of world tension. The allies are also going to be busy with World War II. So you can easily go after Hungary for the guns. They also have a nice number of factories that we can take. Now we've done the focus aligned Bulgaria, and now we're going to be doing the focus the Sadabat Pact. After Sadabat Pact, we're going to be doing expand the fallen empire. The reason for this is we want to call Romania as soon as possible to get the extra factories and manpower. And after that, we will do the Pan-National Associates of Ulamas. Now this focus is bugged. So the way the Sadabat Pact works is that it's supposed to invite all of the people who signed the Sadabat Pact, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, into your faction, and then the Pan-National Association focus will make them your puppets. But due to how it's coded, the second focus, the Pan-National focus, will bypass some of the time. And I've seen people say that, oh, you just need to do, I think, Reclaim the Fallen Empire or the Damascus Diktat before you do the Pan-National focus, and then it won't bypass. But it's not true. It will bypass anyway. It might bypass anyway. It's what happened to me on my Ottoman Empire attempt 1 on my channel. You can go back and see it. So the only way I know so far to get around this is to make your own faction, which is why you made one with Romania. This is also the reason why the faction I made with Romania is titled Fix the Focus. Now Bulgaria has submitted to us and now our puppet. We get some political power, which is nice, but well, it doesn't matter. So just take Bulgaria's troops and put them on a line between Bulgaria and Albania. Now we can prepare for war with Romania. If Bulgaria refuses to become your puppet, just declare war on them with your tanks and roll over them. and then the next part is going to play out the same. So we're going to move our cavalry next to Dobruja, the province of southern Dobruja, and we're also going to move our tanks there, and our infantry is going to stay along the Bulgarian-Romanian border. So when we declare war on Romania, we're going to call in Bulgaria and use our tanks to break Dobruja. The tile next to Dobruja is plains tile, so our tanks can easily break it, and behind it the entire region, I think around the river here is plain tile, so our tanks will be able to move very fast and circle and destroy the Romanian divisions. Then once we do that, we're going to move up, seize I think Constanta. Then after that, we're going to basically move to the side and seize Bucharest. Romania has a unique, weird distribution of victory points. Bucharest has a lot of victory points, while the other cities don't have a lot. So you just need to take Bucharest and other victory points in order to capture Romania. And since we didn't leave the Yugoslavian border with any troops, and this was on purpose, Romania will be busy pouring troops into Yugoslavia. We don't really care about this because there's going to be no fighting there, so there's not going to be a lot of damage in infrastructure or factories. And also, it's not our core territory, so we don't lose a lot by sacrificing it. It's perfectly fine to sacrifice it. So Romania is not going to have a lot of infantry garrisoning its land, so you can also use your tanks to snake their victory points and easily annex them. And we do this because we want to get as much guns as we can from Romania to fuel our army, which at this point you have enough guns already as it is. But if you aren't comfortable using your cavalry as your main line holder, you can simply use 20 with infantry. You have enough guns from Romania, Hungary and Yugoslavia. And also, we don't want to destroy a lot of Romanian manpower or their buildings because we want to use them for ourselves. Now, it's important to research landing craft, and the reason is that while you can simply make do with 10 naval invasions, landing craft is the landing craft for research gives you a faster naval invasion time, so lets you naval invade faster, and also the increased capacity is nice. Since you can invade multiple areas at once, you don't need to do the naval invasion trick I did for Yugoslavia. Bosnia is also your core once you've invaded Yugoslavia and did the press the Austro-Hungarian claim focus, and it has I think infrastructure level of 50, so build factories there as well. Once you reform the empire, you also have a decision to core I think Bosnia, and this gives you a core on Bosnia, the Herzegovina and Dalmatia. Dalmatia also has 50 infrastructure, so you can build there as well. Train around 4 paratroopers for when we have to deal with Hungary. Fighter 2 is done, research concentrated for. On historical, all the 3 nations will accept to join your faction. Okay, so we kicked Romania from our faction and our truce with them is done, so we're going to declare war on them. Let them spread a bit into Yugoslavia before you invade through Bulgaria to thin their lines. Now we have capitulated Romania, so we're just gonna annex the required states they can calls on, which is everything but Bessarabia and Bukovina. Now the Soviet Union has claims on Bessarabia and Bukovina. They don't have claims on southern Bessarabia, so technically you can get away with simply liberating Moldova as a independent nation in Bessarabia and Bukovina. But I've noticed that the Soviet Union tends to justify your new war, come after you if you also have southern Bessarabia, and I'm not sure how it works. You've also at this time like invested a lot of effort in the game, so I suggest not like taking the risk, and I suggest just leaving Romania in these two states. So when the Soviet Union justifies on Romania, Romania will always accept the decision. I mean, not always accept, like very, very, very likely to accept the decision. And so when they accept the decision to give away Bessarabia to the Soviet Union, they also give away southern Bessarabia. So you eliminate any chance of you going to war with the Soviets.
Emriniz. Emredersiniz.
Now we're going to go after Hungary. So Hungary I was given the focus tree in Death or Dishonor, and because of that it doesn't have a lot of victory points. I mean, if you compare Hungary to Bulgaria, Greece or Turkey, it has way less victory points than Bulgaria, Greece or Turkey. You know, before the Battle for Bosphorus, Bulgaria had very little victory points and could be victory point sniped. We're gonna let Hungary into our land by simply like moving our troops away from their borders. And once Hungary has moved into our land, we're just gonna use our paratroopers and then paratroop into the victory points and simply capture Hungary.
Emriniz.
Now I'm going to justify a war goal on Saudi Arabia so that it's easier for us to take the British lands in Arabia. Now there is a chance that Saudi Arabia might join the Chinese United Front, and if they do, you can capitulate Saudi Arabia before they call in any majors and get a peace deal with them, or even before they call in any other Chinese nations and get a peace deal with them. But this requires like specific micro and a bit of luck, and I managed to get lucky in this run. But I recommend you don't do this. I recommend you just declare on Saudi Arabia at the same time you declare on the UK and France. You'll be able to get enough war score to get Saudi Arabia, so you don't have to worry about anything. So we have a peace deal with Hungary, and you can basically annex all of Hungary and just use their factories, because Hungary has a lot of factories. Or what I suggest you do is that you can puppet Hungary in southern Slovakia and Carpathian and Ruthenia. This is because when Germany goes to war with Soviets, you eventually go to war with them. These two states will like increase your border with them, and you need to defend it with your troops more. So instead, having Hungary as a puppet allows you to like shorten your front line. You can also give Transdanubia to your puppet to shorten your front line even more. It depends on what you want, because Transdanubia also has a lot of factories, but not as much as other two states. But I would suggest just annexing Alfold and Budapest and everything else puppeting. 1939 and we have the entirety of the Balkans under our control. You also can't call Hungary the Ottoman Empire, which kind of doesn't make sense because if I remember correctly, the Ottomans owned a large portion of Hungary for around 100 years. Now I'm preparing some naval invasion since I'm going to be going to war with the UK. I'm going to prepare an invasion to Cyprus and then one to Malta and Gibraltar. Now, Cyprus is likely to be guarded and you're going to be unable to get in, which is fine. You can just try again later. Malta and Gibraltar are more of luck based. If you declared war on Romania and then went to war with the allies, those Malta and Gibraltar are unlikely to be garrisoned because the British AI doesn't put troops in them until Germany starts going to war with Poland, etc. and Italy starts joining in. But even now, since Germany and Italy are at war with the UK will have a fight on many fronts. So when you declare war on the UK and you move into Egypt and Syria, etc., the British AI might tend to freak out a bit and move troops away from there, leaving them completely empty. This can allow you to simply walk in there unopposed. Or at the minimum, they can put like 1 or 2 divisions there, and if your troops are good enough, your naval invading templates, you can easily take the Gibraltar and Malta. Malta isn't very useful, but Gibraltar is more useful because it's going to help seal off one corner of the Mediterranean. And when we take the Suez as well, the UK fleet is going to be trapped inside the Mediterranean, which means we can very easily invade the UK. But we don't need to take Gibraltar at all for this strategy to work. In my attempt 1 and 2, I did the entire strategy without taking Gibraltar. Because when you basically take over the Egypt, etc., go for Cyprus, the British AI is going to view you as a threat and move their navy there permanently to like try to counteract you. This is going to leave their navy and the Eastern North Sea and the North Sea are very weak, allowing you to invade through those regions, or you can even invade through the English Channel. I've seen the Britain just completely abandon channel since they're trying to like cage you into the Mediterranean. Now Reclaim the Fallen Empire is done. What this focus does is it basically gives our the leader, the Caliph, which basically just gives some manpower, etc. So it's kind of nice. But more importantly, it gives us decisions to recall the Ottoman Empire. So straight away you have access to 2 decisions, which is to call Bosnia and next is Romania. Click on both of them. And you can see with Romania and Bosnia called, we now have more factories and more production. So you're gonna stop building military factories now and start building dockyards now to spam out more subs. And the dockyards, and since the submarines are quite cheap, the dockyards will be able to produce enough of them even though you're building them quite late in game. You already have a lot of military factories and you already have enough tanks, so there's no like penalty to building dockyards. Just build the dockyards in high infrastructure states. Don't overdo it with dockyards, just build 10 or so dockyards and after that go back to build military factories. You just need a temporary increase in ship production. Put a few military factories on fighters up to I would say 6 to 7 because I'm going to be using fighters a bit to just paradrop troops. Now I'm making some 14 force and I'm going to be using them to naval invade. And the reason I'm using 14 force is because infantry has a lesser penalty to naval attack, and also because I want to use my tanks to invade the Middle East and Egypt instead. So I choose 14 force since they have a high attack. I mean they aren't like good for mainline front pushing, etc. But for naval troops, your 14 force are, I would say, good enough. Ideally you want to make them into Marines, but I didn't have the time to research them. I researched Marines, so I didn't make them into Marines. But if you research Marines on time, you can turn them into Marine 14 and use them to invade. They should be able to break resistance by the British if there is very little resistance. But keep in mind that the British Navy can trap convoy raid you as your naval invasion is launching, and then reduce your division strength to 0, making the invasion useless. So there's a bit of luck involved into it, but it's not necessary to succeed in this attempt. So I would say just go for it. So research the improved computer machine for more research. You can see that for Saudi Arabia, I'm paradropping troops behind the Saudi Arabian line. This is because when my tanks break the line, the front line with Saudi Arabia, I already have paradrop behind them. So the land will be like controlled by me. So I can basically railroad my tanks further in deep into Saudi Arabian territory and seize their victory points faster, allowing me to capitulate them faster. Also be aware that to capture Saudi Arabia, you need more than just their victory points, since you don't have enough. So you need to occupy some land from them as well. Now Saudi Arabia has capitulated, and you can see something weird happen here. They joined the Chinese United Front and called in some miners, but for some reason I got a peace deal with all of them once I capitulated Saudi Arabia. I think it was because Japan had enough war score against them, plus the fact that China didn't join in. Oh yeah, this is also another thing I've noticed, is that China will take a long time before they join in any wars. So if Saudi Arabia were to join the Chinese United Front, it takes a long time before China actually joins them in the fight. So just annex Saudi Arabia. This happens to you, just I guess puppet the Guangxi clique for their steel and tungsten, or you can just directly annex them. So I suggest just declaring war on the allies directly to avoid maybe this happening, because this might turn out in a different way for you, which I can't predict. Now it's time for you to declare on the UK. So before doing this, you want to take your navy out and put it on strike force in the Mediterranean, in all tiles to Gibraltar, Malta and the Cyprus. The Italian navy is also out, so this might give you supremacy to take these regions. Again, if we can't take it, then it's not really an issue. We still can go ahead. So for this war, you should have around 16 tanks at this point, and you want to split 4 off and send them to the Iran border so you can take out India. We want to get more war score than Germany, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to take over most of Africa India, and Southeast Asia. If you have time in your game, you can also try going after Canada, and we're also going to try going after Australia and New Zealand. So by occupying and going after all these lands, we should be able to get enough war score to beat Germany in the peace deal. Now, your strategy for this is you can assign troops to the Arabian parts of Britain, since Britain rarely guards them, and you can easily take them. Assign some infantry to, I guess, Jordan area there, and push down from Syria. So I didn't push from Syria in this game. I pushed up from Jordan, and the reason was because of the focus of Damascus Diktat. I thought that the focus basically depended on how strong you were, and that France will give Damascus away to you if you're stronger than them. Because last time when I went to war with France, I didn't occupy Syria, but France said yes and gave the land to me, so I thought it would happen again, but apparently it's more chance-based than I thought. So you can just skip this focus entirely, the Damascus Diktat, and just push in from the north all the way down into Suez and seize Egypt. Once you've taken Egypt, the main areas of Egypt, you want to quickly move into North Africa, Italy and Libya, if the British are there, seize it, and also move quickly down. This is because Italy tends to expand from Ethiopia, and they tend to like cut off Britain and Sudan. If that happens to you, you can't go down Egypt. You can't go down the Egypt all the way to South Africa and capitulate them. You need to naval invade. Supply isn't going to be a big issue. The main reason is because we're going to use our tanks to encircle and destroy, and we're only going to send in some cavalry afterwards to help fill in the gaps. Once you've destroyed most of the British force in the Levant, Britain will have very little in Egypt, since most of it will be battling Italy. So you can simply move in with your tanks and like overrun the unorganized British divisions. I've also justified on Yemen and Muscat. And Muscat, we have a war goal on them, so we're gonna go take these nations out as well in the war. Then to conquer India, you can either paradrop into India from Iran, then move your tanks there and proceed onwards like I did, or once you've taken the Suez, you can naval invade the port behind the port in India, and then move your troops there and expand from there. Britain doesn't have a lot of troops in India when you declare war on them, because they've shifted most of it to Africa. So if you move very quickly, you might be able to take a lot of parts in India. You can see in my run, I struggled taking India because Britain had moved a lot of troops into the region there. So I had to like seize more victory points and supply before I could move further into them. I was slowed down by the British reinforcements. Also ensure that you have enough fuel for your tanks throughout the entire war. Now as you expand down the Levant and into Egypt, you have options to core the lands. So to core Egypt, you need all of modern day Egypt, and also Khartoum and North Darfur in Sudan. So once you have those lands, you can annex Egypt, and Italy tends to go for those lands, so you need to move quick. Just whenever you have an option to core the lands, core them, since they will increase your population, which is helpful, since you then have more core population and more manpower. If fuel ever seems to be running out, import oil. Don't be like me and move your tanks without oil and wonder why they're fighting so bad. Now the Suez is actually a straight crossing, and so you have a penalty towards attack across the Suez. So once you've broken the British, just quickly seize the Suez to ensure that you aren't stuck there. I was stuck there for a while, but luckily I was able to quickly break him. If you're not winning a naval invasion because your troops are low strength, because they're intercepted, etc., just call off the attack. Now the divisions have landed in Gibraltar, which is very good. So we have cut one of the two ways out of the Mediterranean. Now simply assign the infantry there to guard Gibraltar to ensure that no one else naval invades it. If you've taken Gibraltar and Suez and trapped the British in the Mediterranean, but they still have Cyprus or Malta, don't take Cyprus or Malta. This is because the navy in the Mediterranean is positioned there, and once you take Cyprus and Malta, the navy will have no base, dockyard, like naval base, and you'll be left wide open in the sea, and they'll be attritioning since they have no supply from the UK, since France have capitulated by now. And because of this, if the Italian navy finds them, their navy is going to be destroyed completely, and you don't want this to happen because we plan on puppeting Britain and annexing them to take their navy. So you want their navy to be as strong as it can be. If in your game Italy is very competent and manages to take Egypt, etc., those lands before you can even declare war on them, I suggest you just simply start to naval invade in the regions that Italy doesn't have. So get military access from them, docking rights from Portugal you really have, put your navy in Mozambique, I believe, yeah, Mozambique, and naval invade behind the British lines, encircle, destroy, and move all the way down to South Africa. When Damascus diktat is done, I suggest you skip this focus and just go straight for a research slot, after which you do the military factories one, then supporting the east, and then the redefining our strategies. The research slot only can be obtained if you're in a faction, but if you disband your faction and join another faction, you get the focus gets bypassed. So don't disband your faction until this focus is done. Don't join the Axis until this focus is done either. With Paradrop into India, just move your tanks in and start moving across India. For the invasion of India, you want to use some of Afghanistan, Iran and Iraq's army since they're a puppet to fill in the lines and even push in some cases. These troops don't use your manpower or your equipment, so it's okay to use them to push. Or you can just use your tanks and make a bunch of cavalry to fill in the lines, it doesn't really matter. And for the invasion of Southeast Asia later as well, you want to use these troops in large numbers to invade, since Southeast Asia is lightly guarded, but there's a lot of land to cover, so you need a lot of troops to take the land. So you can see here that Italy pushed out from Ethiopia and took over most of Sudan, so I couldn't call Egypt. And also since they took over most of Sudan, I didn't have supply when pushing deeper into Africa, so I tried to go using the states I controlled, but I didn't have enough supply. In this situation, since this is largely luck based how well Italy does, I suggest you skip the whole trying to push through this region here, get military access from Italy, and docking rights from Portugal. I didn't have the docking rights, so I had to wait for a while. Then once you have both, simply naval invade the British in Kenya or Tanzania there, and then proceed downwards to South Africa. Or you can invade South Africa directly and then move up. Or alternatively, you can just get military access from Italy and push through East Africa. But I don't recommend this since the land will go to Italy's control and they will give them more war score and make it cheaper for them in the peace deal. For research, I'm not going to go into depth anymore since we already have all the basics covered. Just keep up to date on industry, your doctrine, electronics. For build order, you want to put more military factories onto motorized so you have enough of it, and just keep up to date. Check your stockpiles, make sure you have everything up to date. New factories, put them into your tanks. And you also want to research military police eventually and put it in your divisions, cavalry to garrison. And you want to build more military factories after your dockyards are done, and also take decisions to expand steel and build infrastructure in steel provinces if you find yourself trading way too much for steel. So you can see here that Japan started justifying on my Guangxi puppet, which again it wouldn't happen if you didn't declare, if Saudi Arabia didn't join the Chinese United Front. But if you did do what I do and you have this issue, you can simply call Afghanistan into the war and give them Kashmir and northern Myanmar. So Japan is justifying a war goal against your Chinese puppet, and they'll declare war on your Chinese puppet and you only. They won't declare war on Afghanistan. So the states controlled by Afghanistan aren't going to be accessible to Japan. So Japan can't reach you through land. So this will save you the headache of having to man those areas, and you can go after Japan when you want to. Now, justify on Siam briefly after you've started the war against the Allies is because invading Siam allows you to invade Indochina easier and Malaya, and also occupation of Siam and capitulating them allows you to get more war score. Also, prepare naval invasions from Myanmar to Indonesia and Malaya once you're done. To capitulate Indonesia, you need more than just the victory points in all the islands. You need to fully occupy them. I found that taking all the victory points, fully occupying Java, Sumatra and Borneo will capitulate them. It's tedious, but it's what you have to do. Also plan naval invasions to the Maldives, Andaman and Sri Lanka to take them and get the occupation war score. You can see in my run here that I didn't launch a naval invasion there immediately with my full navy, which was a mistake. I was waiting to get docking rights from Portugal, which took far longer than expected, so I didn't launch the naval invasion into Southeast Asia. So to counteract this, we should have gotten docking rights from Portugal earlier and station your navy in Mozambique, and then launch the invasion in South Africa immediately, then move your navy to Asia, Southeast Asia, Myanmar there, and launch your invasion of Southeast Asia. Once Southeast Asia is done, you can prepare your invasion of Australia and New Zealand. To get Australia and New Zealand, you can snipe their victory points, and they only have around... They don't have a lot of victory points, so it's easy to snipe their victory points. Australia is very large though, so you need a lot of preparation. Now prepare the invasion of the UK. Ideally, you should do this after you've capitulated South Africa and India, when you can spare the bulk of your forces to take the UK. Now, to invade the UK, you can either go through the Eastern North Sea and the North Sea, and land near Hull, then split the UK in half and move down, or you can hop across the channel and take Dover. It depends on how the British Navy is distributed. Since you're attacking Africa, Southeast Asia, and you're in the Mediterranean, Britain will split their navy between these three areas and leave the home islands relatively unguarded. So it's possible for you to go through the English Channel, although if in your game the English Channel is defended, you can just launch through the Eastern North Sea. It doesn't really matter. Once you've taken the UK, you want to surround London, and then you want to keep on killing the troops that Britain spawns in London to get more war score. The UK might never invade Britain again. If that happens, just push them out with your army. And we're using tanks to invade the UK instead of 14 force, because when you land with tanks, you can land in the tiles next to the port, surround the port, and also move out quickly and take victory points, giving you enough supply to attack the UK. Tanks also allow you to overrun the UK very quickly. But when we were invading Malta and Gibraltar, those were one-tile states, so you can't do the same strategy there. You need to win the initial naval battle, which is why you use 14 force. For invasion of UK, winning the initial naval invasion isn't important at all. Also, before launching the invasion of the UK, you want to join the Axis. The reason we do this is so that we can get land that the Axis occupies at a cheaper cost. Because in the peace deal, members of the same faction are able to get land that another faction member occupies for cheaper than a random nation. You want to launch your invasion of the UK at around January 1941. This is because Japan would declare on the Dutch East Indies and Malaya around May to June, and in April around there they will declare the US, which you get the US to join the Allies. So you want to invade in January, so that you have enough time to take over the UK and also farm war score from them. Alternatively, you can invade the UK once you've taken Egypt and push down to Sudan over there. Because at that time what will happen is that the UK have very little troops in Britain, since they have everything sent to Africa, and so they can easily take them. But the issue is that the Britain would devote a lot of troops to Africa once you've taken the British Isles, making pushing in Africa very difficult, since there is very little supply, even if you're just using your light tanks. Also, in that case, the instance of the threat of being naval invaded in the British Isles is much higher. Like Britain will constantly naval invade you, which is kind of annoying. So it just depends on how you want to play it. Invading after you've taken Sudan allows you to have more control over when the war ends, so you can choose to end the war at whatever time you want. Now you can see we have more war score than Germany, so we are ending the war by taking London. Now you don't need more war score than Germany for this strategy to work. You can get enough war score as them, or slightly lower by like 2 to 3%. To now we have the peace deal. We're going to cheese the peace deal slightly. So this involves knowing how the entire peace deal works. So Germany is focused mainly on Europe. They will take their claims first. All the nations in the peace deal will take their claims and cause first. So Germany will take, for example, Danzig first. Then after that, German AI is hard-coded to take lands in Europe first. They would focus on Poland, the Benelux, France, then the Scandinavia and the UK. Italy is focused more on Africa and will take the lands in Africa first. So knowing this, you can kind of take what you want immediately. So we want to take the lands we get calls on, basically Arabia, Egypt, Cyprus, take Gibraltar as well for access to the Mediterranean. Then we are going to puppet France in Paris. The reason we puppet France in Paris is because we need Paris to get the achievement. And since Germany will go after Europe, there's a chance that if we don't puppet them in Paris or take Paris immediately, Germany might take Paris. And Paris is not controlled by us, so puppeting France in Paris is cheaper. And then we're gonna take all lands from the UK, except the cheapest tile possible, and puppet them in that. We're gonna repeat this with all of the important Commonwealth nations. And after that, we're gonna give France and UK most of the mainland. This is because Germany and Italy go for these lands first, so we want to safeguard them. So after that we take our Commonwealth puppets and we give them just the useless lands in the Commonwealth. So empty lands with no resource, empty lands with no infrastructure or civilian factories. And we're also gonna give our puppets the regions with all the steel, so you can trade with them for steel. So I give Australia Northern Australia since there's steel, and I take from them the regions with high civilian factory counts, so I can get the factories myself. If you're afraid that you don't have enough war score and Germany might take London first, then you can puppet the UK in London as well, it doesn't matter. And if you have lesser war score than Germany, and Germany takes London first or goes first, etc., it doesn't really matter because you're eventually going to go to war with Germany, and so you can eventually just take it back. Puppeting France, for example, isn't necessary, but will make it very easy for you to beat Germany. There's also another use to puppeting France. If you puppet France in Paris, your puppet France will get the option to integrate Vichy France, and the Vichy French will say yes all the time. So you'll be able to get the entirety of France as your puppet, then you can annex it and get the entirety of France. Also in the peace deal, when taking the Commonwealth, the French, etc., keep in mind how fascist AI works. Fascist AI will take lands they have a direct access to, or they can access by sea. So they take either coastal states or states they have a land border with. They won't take states that their ally have a land border with, for example. So you can use this to, for example, in India, give puppet India and give your puppet India all of the coastline, allowing you to take the interior states for yourself. Once the peace deal is done, you want to take all your dockyards and make them produce convoys from now, since you're only going to be annexing puppets from now on. Your factories as well, put them on tanks mostly, and keep pumping out new tank divisions because you want a lot of them out in the field. So you're going to send all of your convoys to the UK, your puppet UK, and also build in the UK. You can build other military factories or infrastructure to take steel. It doesn't really matter, you just want to build in them. Also send them any excess production you have, excess, for example, trucks, guns, support equipment, etc. Now after it's done, you have two options. You can either go after the US, since you also puppeted Canada, this is going to be very easy. You can kill the US in about 3 months, and the way to do that is to justify on a country that isn't the US in the Americas. So the US will guarantee them and you'll be pulled in a war. A good choice is either Brazil or Argentina, since there are a lot of factories, or Venezuela, since Venezuela has a lot of oil, or you can just do Mexico for convenience. But in our game, since Japan managed to beat China, and Japan is justifying a war goal on us, actually Japan is at war with us, we're going to go after Japan immediately. So we're only going to launch a naval invasion once we've annexed the UK and taken their navy, but until then we're going to prepare a naval invasion against Japan. Also, if Japan has beaten China, Japan usually has a lot of puppets in China, and you want to get the puppets in the peace deal as well. So the way to do it is to take at least one tile from the puppets, or get enough war score against the puppet. Just ensure they have war score on the, like, when you click on the war summary, and wait 2 weeks until the capitulating Japan. Then you get all of the Chinese puppets in the peace deal. If Japan hasn't beaten China yet, what you can do instead is you can wait for the UK's navy to come to you, and once that happens, you can simply launch your naval invasion into China, Japanese occupied China, destroy the Japanese divisions there, then launch the invasion to Korea, take out Korea and Manchukuo. Then after it's done, you can invade Japan directly. The invasion of China will only take about 1 month, since it's very easy to take all of the ports in China, and once you've done that, Japan will just fall apart. Then after that, you can invade Japan and capitulate them, and that should give you 10% war score. So China will take most of the lands in Asia and the islands in the Pacific, but 10% is enough for you to puppet Japan and take all of the home islands, which is where all the good factories are, so it's the best choice as well. And for this strategy, right, it's important to note the behavior of the Japanese AI. Since Japan is having a land border in China, they will devote majority, and when I say majority, it's basically everything they have to China, to the Chinese war. And so as a result, the home islands are very unguarded. So if Japan has already beaten China like they have in our game, you can just launch a direct naval invasion to Japan and knock them out very easily. But I advise that you wait 2 weeks until every single Chinese puppet is going to be in the war, so that you can annex everything and not just Japan. Because if you didn't wait 2 weeks like I did, you only can satellize the Chinese puppets. You can only satellite the Chinese puppets, and that's gonna deprive you of the factories that you can potentially have from annexing them. Once the war in Japan is finished, you can, if China is still in the peace deal, what you do is you can just annex Japan in a very low point state, and then once it's done, just click pass, and the next turn you can take all of mainland Japan, since once you have puppeted Japan, China won't take anything from the mainland. And since in our game, basically China hasn't, there is no China, we're just going to take all of the land that we can directly, and we're going to satellite any states that we didn't manage to get in the peace deal. Now Japan is done, and we have basically London and Paris in our control. The only two other states we need are Paris and Rome. So Paris is very easy. After annexing the UK, we've been sending stuff to them, convoys, and building in them. So we can annex Paris, France relatively easily. From now on, you have three options. You can either go after Italy directly, and this is how you get the achievement in 1941. Second, go after nationalist Spain first, then Italy, and this is what I did. This is because in my Ottoman Empire attempt 2 on my channel, you notice that when I'm going to war with Germany, Spain joined the Axis and cut off a lot of my troops, causing me a lot of headache. So to prevent this, I invaded Spain, but if you're going after the achievement only, you can just invade Italy and then annex France and get the achievement. Our third option is to go after the US again to make ourselves stronger, but if you're going after achievement, there's no real need for it. Now, I've gotten all of my troops in Europe and I'm going to prepare for the final war against the Axis. So I haven't annexed France yet. And that's because if I annex France, Germany will come directly into France and I might lose Paris. So to be safe, I'm going to wait until I have Italy in my control. So to capitulate Italy, we simply have all of our tanks bundled up and we're going to use our tanks to nearly invade the major victory points in Italy and the ports in Italy. It's important to send some tanks to take Palermo and some to take Sardinia. This is because these states also have victory points and Palermo is guarded. The island of Sicily has a strait crossing, so it's going to be hard to take it from the main Italian peninsula. Once you've landed in Italy, simply spread out and take all of their troops. Since Italy is at war with the Soviet Union, it'll be very easy to justify on them, very quick, and also they have very little troops in Italy, so you can capitulate them really fast. I managed to capitulate them in 10 days, you can probably go faster. Once you have taken Rome, just annex France and you have the achievement in your hand. It can be done by 1941. Now we are going to annex France, and once that is done, we will own we will own Paris, London, Tokyo, and control Rome, giving us the achievement, which is pretty much it. Again, I got it in 1942, but that was because I delayed the war because I was conquering nationalist Spain. If you didn't delay the war, I can get it in 1941. So where to go from here? The achievement is done, so I can stop playing. But if you want to continue the game, simply use your tanks and push Germany from the French border there. It's because the terrain here is much more favorable to pushing, because the Italian border with Germany is full of mountains and isn't suitable for pushing. So once Germany is done, just take all your states from them. Be aware that the Soviet Union will puppet a lot of nations everywhere. So if you want to go to war with the Soviets, you also have to take note of that. So with that, the guide is over. So if you like this guide and want to see more, you can always subscribe, like the video, and stay tuned for more videos. I won't be making any more guides for now until the update comes out, the Nostar back, and I am familiar myself with the new combat mechanics and tank mechanics. So until then, I'll see you